Right, it's training. Vanilla. Roger and Karen was at CBD oil. That's what it is. CBD oil.
Yeah. We're
right.
Next board meeting, we're going to have a full crowd.
anything to get people to show up.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Consent agenda. Recommended actions include the items below which are included in the consent agenda. 7A, minutes from July 2nd reorganization meeting. 8A, coaching staff, fall 2019. 9A, policy second reading and adoption of 9620 and 5152. And 9E, special education. Is everybody okay with those items? They have a motion. Second. Any discussion? Yes. Motion passes. Number 3 is good at the cause. Free of any conversation. Thank you for being here. It's such a beautiful.
Yes.
Reports to the board. The first one is the estimated unaudited fund balance.
Well, key here is estimated and unaudited. Those are the key words. Our audit is not going to happen until the end of the month. But it does appear that we have brought in more revenue than what we have spent. So that's a good news. I would like a little statement in the comment section that we continue to spend less than what our revenue is. So that's a good thing. I can say that right now that estimated surplus it will change, and we're just in the process now of starting to close out the budgets. We still have a number of items out there in terms of encumbrances and things like that. So we are progressing through that, but so that number, I'm pretty confident to say will go down, but it will not. I'm pretty at the same time confident to say it's not going to go so far down that it's actually a deficit. So, when you look at that, and then you look at the next page as well, it kind of looks at where we are with our various reserve funds. It is a good thing that our appropriated fund balance will not be used, so we don't have to tap into that to kind of bring in additional revenue. Looking at it, that we do still have a number of revenue sources that are still outstanding that we will put in as receivables, but I think that's pretty standard for year in, year out. There's a number of federal grants that we typically don't get until after the budget has closed, so even our revenue side is not showing everything that we should have brought in. But all said and done is we're still looking fairly good, fairly healthy. But I think if you look back in previous years, you'll see that that number has tightened up.
What do you mean, what does that mean?
The surplus has gotten smaller over the years. And that's just, I think, a reflection of trying to maintain programs and continue the things that we're doing, adding where we can, but maintaining that 2% increase each year. So that is slowly dipping into kind of the reserve surpluses that have been built into the budget over the years. And I think it's going to continue going that way. Because as Roger has mentioned, when you have a flat budget, it really is more of a cut because things are getting more and more expensive. And so we're able to buy less for the same amount of money.
What's our, the unassigned fund balance, where are we at the 4%? Does that come in? Like our maximum?
We are currently above our maximum.
Okay. Yeah.
We were about, we're probably, without having the exact number, we're probably similar to where we were. It was about 11%. But that will change once we pay the $760,000+ that's due this month to BOCES for the capital projects.
Okay.
So we will see the reserve for liability claims, that accounts. We will exhaust that, but that was what we anticipated anyway, plus tap into unassigned fund balance to pay the rest of that. With knowing that in a year, we'll have our third and final payments.
So we know that every year we gotta pay that capital money to BOCES for the capital project, and so why do we leave it in the unassigned fund as opposed to just earmarking it for that and then taking it out ahead of time, or is it just the account?
Well, because there's not really an account
For it.
it.
Yes, okay.
That's why. I mean, a couple of years ago, you set up the reserve for liability claims, I believe specifically for that, but rather than just putting money in there just to take it back out.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's capped,
Yes.
like 500,000 somewhere around there.
So I think that was the plan a year or so ago, or when the
Yeah.
capital project was saying, this is what we'll spend down, and then tap into the fund balance, because we probably could move it into that once we're below it,
Right.
just to take it back out in a year.
Thanks.
I think it bears saying again that the board 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
made a statement and said we're going to maintain a higher unassigned fund balance with the express intention of
Right.
paying for this capital project.
But we know that is actually the intent of it, so that
Yeah,
that percentage.
Right.
absolutely, and I think
Right.
that the board has stuck to its guns,
Sure.
and I think that speaks really highly of the way we're managing this.
Good.
And that has been, clear to our external auditors. I mean, obviously they cite it because it's a fact that it's above the 4%, but they also then say, here is the board's justification for that.
Thanks.
Any additional questions?
Yes. What happens to the interest on the ending fund equity?
Well, we have sweep accounts.
I don't know what that means.
So an MBT, what it is in order to ensure that all of our funds are just that, insured. NBT takes our money and puts it into other banks. And we actually do generate interest on that. So when we need it, they call it a sweep account. When we need it, we just authorize NBT to move the money from other banks into our operating accounts to pay things. So what we do is, rather than maintaining a $10 million balance in our operating accounts, that money gets pushed out to other banks for the sole purpose of collecting interest. We don't collect a lot of interest, but we do collect interest, and that becomes a revenue source. So when you look at, just to kind of give you an example, when you look at our general fund status reports, and specifically if we want to go to page 2, you will see we have a line item that talks about interest earned on investments. So you'll see
Thank you.
That's where that goes, yes.
Okay.
So, it protects our account so that if by chance something happens to NBT Bank, we're not out all this money because all of our money is pushed out, most of it's pushed in other spots so that it's still federally insured.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Budget status report.
So that kind of leads us into, the next page I was at.
It's the day
And-
which tonight.
And you see, we see these every month, and it kind of leads into what we were just talking about is the fact that, our end of the year is pretty standard to what it's been in the past. Collecting about 96% of our revenue. Some areas you'll see, we didn't meet our target goal. In other areas, we far exceeded our target goal in terms of when the budget was set up. And that's because some of these things you don't know. You try to guess, like the interest on our accounts. We guess on that with Medicaid. That fluctuates from year to year based on high cost needs and things like that. So those, we take a best case judgment in terms of what it is budgeted wise, but in the end, every year slightly different based on the needs of our students and how we service those needs. And that's specifically when you look at Medicaid and summer school and staff reporting and stuff like that. When you look at our expenditures, I was saying most of it is in, 94% of it, we still have some encumbrances, things like that. Expenses coming in as we close out the year. It's always interesting when you think June 30th comes in July 1st and it's a new year, fiscally speaking, it actually takes, a couple months to really close out the previous year. And we really won't officially close it out until the auditors come here at the end of the month and go through our books and things like that to ensure everything is proper.
So the appropriated fund balance with the 0% collected, I know it's only $500,000, but it's $500,000. And maybe I missed it, but tell me about that.
That is basically, the appropriate fund balance is tapping into our, in essence, like reserve accounts, our fund balance. So over the last few years, it probably goes back a number of years, we use that number to kind of balance the revenue, almost like a shortfall.
Okay.
Fortunately, over the, I don't know how many years, we've actually not had to tap into that appropriated fund balance. So that's why you see it's 0%, zero collected. It's really our money, we're just not allocating it specifically to expenses.
Wow, okay.
But in order to balance the revenue side of a budget, it's we use that because in case.
So when we're developing the budget, if we can't get it to 0, we can appropriate fund balance in the budget. And
Right, as
that
long as we
becomes
have
that
the,
number.
right, as long as we have the amounts sitting in our bank account basically to do that. That's that, fund balance that we, the document I just showed you.
Yeah.
That's where that money comes from.
Thank you so much
Yep.
for explaining.
Sure.
Questions?
Yeah. Other questions on the budget status? And then we have the treasury report. You'll see, I always like to look at the second part because you'll see there's a lot of outstanding checks. That's usually an indicator that things came in towards the end of the month. But if you look at it, these are all very small amounts, which means things were probably, we deposited them probably close to the end of the month, and they just hadn't had time to clear when Betsy was reconciling our accounts for the month of June. So when you look at that, and it goes back to what the question you asked with, do we collect interest and all that? On that first page, the second line, insured cash sweep, you'll
Yes.
see that for the month of June, we had a little over $5 million in that cash sweep. We had 71,000 in our operating fund, 5 million is spread out through other banks collecting interest, and when we need it, we just pull it back. And that happens typically around payroll time, we will, submit that, and, depending on what payroll it is, we just ask MBT Bank to move the money into our operating account so we can pay our bills.
Danny, there's that one check there for 130,000, that's not small. What is
Take a guess.
that? Capital project.
No, BOCES. That's a BOCES payment, right. Their June invoice came in late,
Okay.
later than typically. So yes, that's a BOCES.
Yeah, there seems to be a common theme here, yeah.
Yes, it does.
It's like $2, $700,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Always on BOCES.
That's right. Typically speaking, if you see a large dollar amount like that,
Going over there.
it's probably going to BOCES. Not always, but it's a good chance.
Very good.
Other questions on the treasury report?
Okay, take a breather. Catch up
Thank
with you
you.
later.
Good job.
Superintendent's report.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about a few things, and the first thing I want to do is I want to continue my discussion from the last board meeting about end-of-year results on, in this case, more exam scores, different exam scores. I want to talk about the SATs, the ACTs, and the APs as they pertain to our students, sometimes our seniors, and sometimes our juniors and seniors. Unfortunately, I didn't post the scores I want to talk about on board docs. So I did just send it to you in email, and Karen will probably get it posted here in a minute. But
Oh, I see.
are you able to access that? Did everybody get an email if you're able to do that? Okay, and I'll talk about it too, and then hopefully we'll catch up on all this. So I want to start by talking about our college entrance exams. So typically when we're talking about college entrance exams, we're talking about SATs and ACTs. And on an annual basis, I like to provide the board with some scores from our seniors, from graduating seniors. Now, in some cases, juniors take these exams also. So in some cases, I'm talking just about seniors. In other cases, I'm talking about juniors and seniors.
I'm familiar.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like it got around to some. Okay. So so in terms of the scores, there's a few things to look at. One of them is our participation. To what extent do our students participate in college entrance exams? And then our results, how do our students do on the SATs? And then our results, how do our students do on the ACTs? So I'll start with participation. So in this year's senior class, about half of our graduating seniors took the SAT, and in some cases took both the SAT and the ACT. And if you look at the numbers, 51% for SAT, it's 9% for ACT. So our ACT participation is pretty low. There have been some years where it's been higher. This isn't one of those years. 51% is kind of in the middle where it's typically been. I'm going to talk about that just a little bit more in a minute. And that number, you have to remember, is kind of a reflection of our students who are or are intending to go to a four-year college, because there's no requirement that a student take a college entrance exam to attend a community college or other vocational programs that I've shared with you that some of our students go to. When I spoke last time, actually I don't have it right here, our graduating seniors, somewhere between 40 and 50%, we're looking at four-year colleges. So that kind of matches the college entrance exam. So those students are taking those exams, using that as part of their application. It's also true that not every four-year college requires students to take SATs or ACTs anymore. It used to be the case that they all did, or at least most did with rare exceptions. But now many schools are test optional. And that means they allow students to choose not to submit their entrance exam scores. So it's no longer one of those things that absolutely every student must do. So 51% of our seniors took the exam, or one of the exams, sometimes twice, sometimes 3 times, by the way. In terms of averages, our SAT average this year in the English area, reading and writing, was 597. and that's compared to a 536 on the national average and a 528 for the state average, and you'll see that on your, if you've got this document in front of you. In math, our average was 575, that's compared to 531 nationally and 523 state. So you can see that for the students who do take this exam, our average scores are much higher than the average scores nationally and statewide. In terms of ACTs, that's also true. It's hard to really make generalizations. We're talking about 9% of the class, but it's not unusual for us to see our ACT scores being much higher. I think there's lots of reasons for that. I think in some cases that's a positive reflection on our students. I think, frankly, it's also a reflection of who takes the ACT. Often these are students who are thinking about competitive college admissions. Therefore, they've been working hard all along. Therefore, they've been trying to show their best hand when it comes to college admissions, and that typically means working hard to get good scores on these exams, including the ACT. I wanted to go back to participation, though, for a second. So there's a graph on that page. If you go down to the bottom of that page, it's called SAT participation rate for graduating class. And you can see over the last 6 years, yeah.
Do you have the page? Does everybody have it
Yes.
now?
Yeah, so we have. So you can see over the last 6 years what our participation has been. So you can see sort of how it was hovering around 60%. It dropped into like the mid-40s. This year it's at 51%. And then you're going to see something unusual. First of all, you're going to see next year on the graph, which is unusual because I'm usually only showing you this year, but you're going to see the 2019-20 year, and you're going to see a much higher participation rate. I don't want you to know what that's all about. So this year, and you already know, I'm just trying to connect the dots here, you already know that a year or two ago, the board voted to fund an opportunity for all of our students to take the SAT. This past year in March, we participated in the College Board's school testing program, which means that we hosted one SAT exam on a Wednesday during the school day, and the school district paid for students to participate. So while 51% of our seniors took this exam, they did not participate in that because that didn't happen when they were juniors. We did that with our juniors this year, and 80% of our juniors participated in that. And so that high participation is a direct result from your decision, our ideas about trying to bridge the opportunity gap, give more kids an opportunity to do some normal things, to provide chances for them to go in whatever direction they want to go. Right? So that graph's pretty important, and it's also relatively new. We didn't even know. I didn't even get this information until about a week ago. So that's the juniors right now. When they're seniors, that could change. Either the class might change, kids come and kids go, or more kids could participate. So we'll see what happens. My guess is it'll hover around that 80% next year. And then we may also see an impact on our scores, and I think that the rule of thumb is, right, and I'm sure you know this, that the higher the participation, typically the lower the average. And we'll see where we go with that. Sometimes we've seen that sort of natural trend happen with our students, and sometimes we haven't. We did have one year where we had the highest percentage of students participate and the highest averages we ever had. So sometimes that happens. We'll see. I do think that those SAT and ACT scores are a reflection on our kids' readiness for life after high school. You know that we also advocate strongly for kids to participate in vocational programs through BOCES and to do have some other experiences. We have a high percentage of our kids doing that, but and so I think a lot of our kids are prepared for that work world. But I think our kids who are heading in that academic direction after high school are well prepared to do so. So I think that speaks highly of what we're trying to accomplish here. So that's one set of scores. Any questions on the SATs and ACTs?
Are we doing anything, now that we've got this program in place, are we doing anything for SAT prep?
Yeah, well, we actually are doing the same thing for PSATs.
Okay.
We've been doing that for 3 years. We've been participating in a program which is no cost as part of the study to allow all juniors to take the PSAT. As far as the prep goes, we also have, on occasion, and then revisited it this year, offered students a chance to take a SAT prep class. And so this year we had.
Again, at no charge though, right?
And it was no charge for students. It was after school. It was open. We had mixed participation. Our kids are stretched pretty thin.
Sure.
But
It's there.
yeah, we had Tammy Casey taught the math, and Amy Spicer taught the English. And we've done that in the past. We did it with Frank Brunner, who taught golf. So yeah. So we're working on both preparation and giving kids the chance to actually take this exam.
Great.
In terms of APs, you'll see our AP scores there. That big middle column is total exams. So that tells you how many kids were in each class. 9 in the 11th grade English AP class, 13 in the senior class, 4 in the bio, 8 environmental, and 5 in the physics. Those 2 exams go hand in hand with just that. All of our kids just take those 2 exams, and they're actually not 2 3-hour exams. They're shorter. So physics does things differently than every other subject. Then you can see the average next to that. So under LP average, you can see how our students do on average, and you compare that to the global average. That might be national average, but it's actually global because students internationally take this exam. So they refer to this as the global average, and then the New York State average. Overall, I think what you see is what you normally see with our AP scores is, on average, our students tend to perform higher than the global average and the state average. Not the case this year in physics. We do have those years. Physics is particularly challenging, actually, to offer, and we do it when we have students who are interested. We don't always expect that they're going to master the exam. The other thing I'll comment on is that I wouldn't say participation is particularly high, and I think that's something for us to look at. We have made a serious effort to be more inclusive in terms of AP enrollment. So whereas in the past we had very hard and firm standards by which to either allow kids into class or not, we have opened those up over the year. Again, this is the opportunity gap effort to try and lower barriers. And so we have allowed students to take these courses even if they don't necessarily meet what used to be the traditional enrollment standards. That being said, they have other options too, and some of those other options we've talked about, and I don't have them here, bridge courses, right? And that's one thing that's really grown here, is opportunities for our kids to take college level classes while in high school. We have a number of our bridge classes that do attract our students. So we'll see again how we do, how the AP program goes. The AP program has been strong. At times it's been stronger in terms of participation. Anyway, any questions about the APs? Oh, the other thing you can see is the averages over time, right? So I've got since 2013 what our averages are there, and again, I think you can see if you want to see how do our kids do this here, you can see, for example, in the 11th grade English class, this was the best year of all since we've been keeping track, at least in the last 7 or 8 years, for our scores there. And we had fairly consistent years in other areas, and then like I said, with the physics a little bit lower than we typically do. We don't typically take the physics. It's been a hit and miss.
It seems kind of tough though, because the exam can be harder one year to the next, and if you're looking at, you kind of have to look at the national and state averages as well as the year over year.
Absolutely, and the numbers are so small. You're talking about 5 kids.
Right.
It's really not fair to draw
Sure.
grand conclusions. So I give you the numbers with that
I just
caveat.
think it's great that they're participating in it. It's fantastic.
We have in the past had 1 or 2 advanced level, AP level math classes. We don't right now, but that's on the docket for next year to give AP stats another try.
Great.
So we're going to see where we go with that. Any questions about the college entrance exams or the AP exam scores? Great. I was just going to mention a few other things. Oh, sorry.
It's great information.
Oh,
Yeah, good.
yeah. And just other things, just talking about what's going on here in the summer. You may have seen a lot of activity going on in the parking lot up here. That's the staff lot, the upper lot. So ORDA has been doing some testing in that lot. And they've been exploring the possibility of doing core samples to explore the strength of the bedrock underneath there, with the possibility of something we've talked about before, which is the possibility that they would want to construct a parking garage that would span both our parking lots, that we would be, partners in with them should we, should this come to fruition. So it's ultimately something that I think the board would need to talk about, think about, and decide on if we really want to go ahead with that. And we'll have some opportunities to discuss that with ORDA and hopefully bring that information to you. It's up to the board to decide whether those kinds of things are in the best interest of the school district. But as you know, ORDA's got a lot of construction possibilities, I guess, that are out there. This is one of them. It hasn't been finalized, hasn't been approved, haven't even seen any plans. So what they're doing right now are these core samples to see if putting up a lot in that parking lot and their own parking lot is a possibility.
Is the markings on in front of the school down by the oval, is that ORDA or is that part of our construction?
Which markings?
There seems to be paint along the irrigation or the drainage closest to the hill as you come down. I noticed it last night.
Yeah, I saw some markings out there
Wondering if that
today.
was us or if it was.
I don't believe it's us.
I don't think so either.
Okay. Not Trout Brook, but the one by
Yeah.
old arena grill. Yes. No, in front of the school, but it runs parallel to the school.
And I did also see some markings on the other side too,
Okay.
close to Main Street as well. I just thought maybe they were
They
marking out for
have not
for
also
Ironman.
finalized their own discussions about the oval and whether or not to continue to repair it in patchwork fashion or to rip it all up and rebuild it. I know they haven't finished that conversation. We'll see where that goes. You need lawyers involved in all of this because these are the ownership is so questionable and control is questionable. There's at least 3 municipalities involved in almost all of these activities: the school district, the town, and ORDA. So often there's at least 2 of our entities that have to be involved in these kinds of decisions. So, and reading, you might remember some of these legal documents. Reading them is kind of challenging. Yeah.
So you need a lawyer.
You need to-
Yes.
Now you're not wearing that hat.
You may not be wearing the hat, but you got it in there.
Other things, we're in our second week of summer school, and we also have, we have kids around for summer school. We also have kids around this building for the Youth Commission summer camp. So even though it's summertime, we still hear the voices of children on a regular basis. I think that's a good thing around the school. Construction, of course, has started and it's ongoing. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll return to the Dana Wood Show in a minute and he'll talk a little bit about the capital project. But so far it's not causing too much of a disruption. We'll see. And in terms of our facilities, we have 2 big events, the 2 traditional big events which are going on. Ironman, they will begin their setup this week. The event itself is less than 2 weeks away. It's Sunday after next.
The trailers are starting. They're out there on the
Are they
oval
out there
already.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 of them.
Yeah. And then, of course, following that in August, we have the lacrosse tournament that will be coming into town. They'll be using our fields over at the horse show grounds. And I know that all of that will keep the action around our school facilities hopping. So, as for the school board events are going on as well. Karen is busy making arrangements for the NISPA conference, so if you're planning to attend the NISPA conference, She is both signing people up for the conference itself and then struggling with a broken online system to try and figure out where people are going to stay. So we'll see where that goes.
So it's not just me? No, okay.
There's also the
I'm
NISPA
not.
Area 6 dinner, and I don't know who has put in for that. That's 2 weeks from today. That's up in Malone. And then, of course, we do have a break from school board meetings. And so in about, I think we have 4 weeks between this meeting and our August 13th meeting. So enjoy your summer vacation.
What is the benefit to the board if members go to the Malone dinner?
So typically there is a speaker. Usually there's a keynote speaker. I can't remember who the keynote speaker is this year. And they know they're speaking to an audience of board members. They often try and craft it to, sort of better inform board members about an issue or issues. Doesn't say who the keynote is.
Was it master's teacher last year, wasn't it? Was that
Last year there was a presentation by the master teachers, including some faculty members from around the region, talk about the master teaching program so that board members understood what it is and what the benefits are of the Master Teachers Program. We've often had policy people come present from NISPA itself. I think we had
Bev Odekirk came.
Bev Odekirk typically has come. She won't be here this year, I don't think. She's not doing well. And she's a member of the Board of Regents to be able to talk about statewide policy. So I don't know who's going to be there this year. So that's one opportunity. The other is a networking. And then the food's pretty good.
I can go,
Do you want to go?
yeah. I have it on my calendar. But as always, I love to ride with people, so whoever else is going.
So, and that's everything for me. Back to Dana. Or-
No information
Call
from
it
the
a
board
board
first?
Okay.
It's the Rick show right now.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Any questions on the superintendent report? Thank you very much for the update. Information for the board, there are several items there, the extracurricular balance sheet, the board meeting dates, the modified, several files regarding the modified lacrosse merger, letter regarding this Friday's meeting with Elise Stefanik, which I believe Colleen, did I hear you were
I'm going to
interested?
try to go, yes.
That's set up by NISBA.
Cool.
And also the committee list is in your packet. Unless there's other changes, we'll finalize that, correct, Karen?
Yep, Colleen's just going to add to the health and safety for buildings and grounds.
Okay. Any questions on any items there? I think I covered them all. If not, I'll turn it back over to Dana for the capital project.
Well, if you haven't noticed, the walking bridge here at the middle high school is completely gone. They've cleaned that up and now they're just waiting for the steel to be fabricated. So that will, I think, take a couple weeks. So right now there's kind of a lull here in terms of at least like construction because of that. Abatement is going on at both buildings, so they are going through that. I think it's progressing on schedule in terms of what's technically part of the capital project. They have found other spots that have come up, as always the case when you're dealing with an older building. So as those come up, we've had 2 issues come up in the last week that are being addressed. One in the classroom and one outside the building that has been tested positive. So a plan is now being put in place in terms of how to abate those areas.
Is this at the high school building?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. As far as I know, nothing unusual has been found in the elementary school. And that building it was, I think, built in the 70s, so there's probably not as much asbestos behind the walls, if you will.
Right.
They are doing some abatement there on the faculty bathroom areas, new piping and stuff like that. But for the most part, it is progressing. And we are kind of getting into, kind of not part of the capital project, but a project nonetheless, is the front of the building. They're progressing there. Keyword is they're progressing. I'm not going to say quickly. But they are. I did get an update today, and they thought that a few more weeks. I guess masonry work is slow and all that. But they have been told that next week is probably not a good week to be working here because Ironman is setting up. It wasn't originally on our radar in terms of at least them knowing about it because the intent was this project was going to be completed well before Ironman. So I did let them know this morning that come this weekend they are probably best to shut things down for a week because Ironman takes over. And I think that is the plan. They're going to finish up what they can and move things out of the way so that Ironman can set up their tents and things like that and get ready for the big events. But I think all in all, it's progressing according to the work schedule. We've had some contractors wanting to move forward a little quicker than the schedule. But with anything, when you get into multiple moving parts, just because one wants to doesn't mean the other three that are part of it can. So that's what our construction manager group, Schoolhouse, that's what one of their tasks to do is to maintain that they're all working together so that you're not bringing in someone that wasn't planned and then now being charged and being billed extra because they got to find a way to cover it. They weren't, if one contractor wasn't planning it, but now they're being told to come in, then of course that's going to fall back in terms of being charging on us. So that's kind of where we are with capital projects.
Thank you.
Okay, on the discussion phase. Board goals and objectives. Karen had shared the Google Docs. Not sure if you've all been in there or not.
Mine
Hopefully-
went, it's just a blank when I tried to pull it up, I'm not sure what happened, but yeah.
And I put one in and it said that I highlighted an area when I actually put in a few sentences on something else. It was weird.
Try the link that's in the agenda in board docs. That works really well for me.
Okay.
I mean, right, yeah, this one right here.
Yeah, that's what I did, came up blank.
Okay. So we're aiming for the next meeting to have that draft ready to share with everyone. So if you can kindly get in there and comment. I find just adding the new goal and then commenting on it so that we know it's new works best. Or if you want to comment on the goal, just highlight it and then click and comment. But any questions on the goals and objectives?
I appreciate that you are aiming for measurables because those are really hard sometimes.
Yes, they are.
And they're real important.
Sometimes not possible yet. Thank you.
I was wondering in regard to one of the goals, I don't have it right in front of me, so I'm ad-libbing a little bit, but in regard to board members attending various committee meetings throughout the community, maybe we could get a list of the meeting dates or something prior to, so we could say, I volunteer to go to that or whatever, so we actually
We've done that in the past.
Oh, we have, okay.
So, but it would be, we did that in the past with, Wilmington. I know that Patty, we put down Wilmington and.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah,
just a list of, like the village meets on the,
Yeah, like, I mean, I
Some
volunteer to go to a
Sure.
town board meeting or something, just to,
sure. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, we'll go on to the board retreat. believe there's an email that went out, as well as here in board docs. There's information on the board retreat. And Karen just did a sampling, and Dan and myself pulled out some of the items that were of interest, or we thought were of interest, so, but in no way does that mean that those are the only ones. But there's a list there. Do they still send out the survey, Karen?
I believe that's exactly what they do, is like once we set a date and figure out where we want to do it.
They'll send out a survey that you fill out and then send back, and they'll use that to tailor the specific items under these titles that board members see as issues or potential problems. So it went very well last time we did it. Last time we did it in the morning. That way, those of us that have busy schedules are less likely to be detoured. If we have it at noon or 1 o'clock, then
Yeah.
a lot comes up in the morning. So how would you like to move forward with deciding on a date? Like to have it in August, probably earlier the better in August.
It should be called a workshop instead of a retreat.
Yeah, it would
I mean, it
probably
just
would
seems
be
so, when one hears the word retreat,
Yeah.
I mean, I could be the only one, but I envision
Yeah.
sitting by the lake or spa or something
Well,
like
if you're
that.
inviting
So-
us.
I'm
No,
good
I'm
with that,
just-
Colleen.
Yeah.
I would
But
do
don't
that.
you think that that's what the word
Yeah.
kind of retreat gives this aura of relaxation and whatever? So
It's a retreat for them.
Yeah,
They get to come up
they get to
here.
come to Lake Placid,
Yeah.
but maybe
Live
a
in retreat
workshop,
world.
so it sounds more focused instead of the board going on a retreat.
Sure.
Well, for the spa thing now.
So as far as, are there better days for everyone?
Because I'm probably gonna have to give them a couple of
Sure.
days anyway.
Oh, at least, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
for their availability.
Maybe do a doodle poll?
Yeah,
Sure.
might be a good idea.
Good idea.
I do prefer morning, so I don't know what everybody else feels. But,
Mornings are fine with me.
yeah, afternoons.
Actually, I prefer that.
Then if you want to include a lunch, just to wrap up, we can do that as well. I think we did that last
Yeah.
time.
So how long is the workshop retreat? What time frame do you schedule for that? It says 1 to 4 hours, 8 to noon.
8 to noon.
Okay.
I'd like you all to know that I signed up to be one of the people who delivers these workshops.
Oh, great.
Great.
So that's why I got comped to the convention. And it's interesting, I look forward to going through ours because I will learn so much about how to help another board move forward.
Great.
What sort of training do you receive?
We shadow other people.
Okay.
So there's one happening in Fort Edward, does that sound right? And I'm going to that. And we had a webinar and,
Excellent. Good for you. Thank you.
You're gonna have some context here to, really compare.
Yes.
Should be interesting.
So you'll put out a poll? Karen?
yes.
Great, excellent.
Okay, on to the action items. A is the meeting minutes, which was under consent.
I have A as teachings, oh,
I'm
sorry,
sorry.
my bad, never mind.
No, yeah, you're
7A is minutes.
right, and then 8. 8A is teaching staff appointments. The recommended action, upon the recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Jason Leon, professional certification in childhood education, to the position of computer teacher director of technology, replacing Thomas Dodd for the 2019-2020 school year, with a salary will be $51,783, step 6, for masters plus 54 of the LPEA negotiated agreement, July 2017 through June 30th, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Second, Colleen?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion on this item?
No, this is really a transfer. There's obviously no new commitment on the board's part. This is a transfer of Mr. Leon, who attended our last couple of meetings, which is coincidental, who's been a real leader in integrating technology into the classroom with the third grade. He did it also, he's done it also at other grade levels. So this will be a new experience for him, and this will fill a much-needed gap in what we're trying to fill based on Mr. Dodd's retirement.
Great.
Six yes.
Do you have leads on Mr. Leon's teaching position? Sorry, to put you on the
You're always
spot.
pointing out the domino. Yes.
Yeah, and what happens after that?
So that's being posted as we speak.
Okay, okay.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay, 6-4-0 against, motion passes. 8B is teaching assistant resignation upon recommended action upon recommendation of the superintendent. Accept the resignation of Juliana Searing, teaching assistant at the middle and high school, effective July 1st, 2019. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? If not, please vote.
6 yes.
Teaching assistant appointment, recommended action is where upon recommendation of the superintendent, appoint Andrea Tapia, certification pending, to the position of teaching assistant, replacing Juliana Searing, in the tenure area of teaching assistant for a probationary period of 4 years commencing upon completion of certification and which is anticipated to end 4 years from that date. Salary for the 2019-20 school year is step 1, level 2, which is $25,687 of the LPEA negotiated agreement dated July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2020. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Colleen, second.
Yes.
Thank you, Martha. Any questions on this appointment? If not, please vote.
6 yes.
Okay, 6-0 against, motion passes. 8D, long-term teaching appointment. Recommended action upon the recommendation of the superintendent. Emily McConvey is hereby appointed to the long-term position of special education teacher in the middle and high school, commencing on or about October 24th, 2019 until January 5th, 2020. The salary is $45,834. Step 1, a bachelor's plus 26, prorated daily rate of $241.84 of the teacher's salary schedule for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Dan, second.
Is that Leon?
Right.
Yes.
Any questions, comments? No, please vote.
6 yes.
Thank you. 6-4-0 against. E was the coaching staff for the fall. That's consent. Administrative contracts with consent. Additional action items. Donation acceptance. 9A was under consent.
Donation.
Did I say donation?
Policy second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Policy second read. That's under consent. Athletic merger. Sorry. Action item of the athletic merger, be it resolved that Lake Placid Central School approves the baseball merger with Keene Central School for a period of 1 year, effective for the 2019-2020 school year. I will need a motion on that, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Martha. Second, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion on the merger?
Looks like it helps both schools.
Yeah, yeah, I think the numbers really justify this.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Jamie hasn't registered yet. 6 yes.
6-4-0 against. Approved. 9C is the bid approval acceptance. Recommended action, whereas the Board of Education, in accordance with General Municipal Law, Section 101.5, and Educational Law, invited requests for proposals for special inspection and construction materials, engineering and testing services for the capital project, which proposals were opened on May 31st, 2019, and whereas Atlantic Testing Laboratories submitted an RFP for the testing services. Thereof be it resolved that the board hereby awards the contract of the testing services to Atlantic Testing Laboratories in the approximate amount of $35,000. May I have a motion to accept this bid?
Yes.
Colleen, second.
Yes.
Thank you, Dan. Any discussion?
Six yes.
6-4-0 against. Another bid approval acceptance. This would be 9D. Whereas the Board of Education, according with General Municipal Law, Section 101.5 and Educational Law, obtained a bid from Professional Furnishings and Equipment to furnish, deliver, and install 374 Irving Rialto chairs for the middle and high school auditorium located at 34 School Street, Lake Placid, New York. And whereas Professional Furnishings and Equipment Incorporated submitted a bid under the New York State IPA, contracting pricing for furnitures, delivering and installing of the seating in the auditorium of the middle and high school. Therefore be it resolved that the board hereby awards the bid to the seating for the seating of the middle and high school to Professional Furnishings and Equipment under the NYS IPA contract in the amount of $155,565.10. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's exciting.
We've, of course, you've seen
Yeah.
these chairs.
Yeah.
You've been seeing them all along.
Yeah.
They're still a sample.
I'm
that's
pretty
sitting
sure
over
we
there,
did.
so.
It's exciting.
So why are we doing it again? Didn't we look at this?
We looked at it.
We haven't accepted the bid.
It was just under information to the board?
Yeah, yep. This one we've had a little longer.
You're going to be reading this. It's easier to install the chairs than to read them.
Liam, your vote hasn't registered.
Yes.
Yes. 6 yes.
Okay, 6-4-0 against.
We're almost done.
Now the special education is consent. German phase, I'm sorry, under special education, is there any questions regarding the August 13th packet? Any comments on it? Is it pretty straightforward?
It's actually very straightforward. It's primarily the closing out of our seniors who are also a part of the special education program, which I'm here to tell you is just one of those moments where you smile because you see all these students who we've been supporting all on special education, and we know they all graduated with a diploma. So it's just really a good news story.
Okay, German phase, next meeting is right here on August 13th, 2019. And the meeting dates are the additional meeting dates are in your in board docs. Under old agenda topic items, have the St. Agnes Busing Ad Hoc Committee. It's Jeff, myself, Dana, and Jeff Jakes. Dana.
No, not yet. I'll look and see. Morning's better? Or afternoon?
Morning's fine with me. Up to you, Rick. Either
Sure.
one's fine.
I'll remove onboarding for school board members, new school board members, and I'll eliminate the board retreat since we're moving forward with that. Any new agenda topics?
This isn't a new agenda topic, but is there any reason why we took off linking agenda items with board goals?
So we don't
Just-
have board goals yet.
Oh, because we have, okay, so once we do that, we can. We'll
And you could do another.
No, it's not that. I think
Yes.
it's long-term, it's a good, like,
Sure.
indicator of, are we sticking with what we've decided, this is what we want to do? It's a metric that says, yeah, we are, or we're not.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
it's useful.
Well, I was panicked about it. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot to put it on there. I'm like, oh no, we
I
don't have
understand.
goals.
So hopefully this will be the only meeting that we don't,
No, last week, but,
yeah, I guess we.
that's understandable, that's fine.
We can also go back, I would imagine, to the last couple of meetings.
I don't, that's probably not necessary, but just as we go forward, I think it is a good, and you've
Yeah, I
pointed out
agree.
several times that it's a
Yeah.
good, like, you
Yeah.
know, kind of a look back and see, how are we doing?
The checks and balances.
It is, no, it's worthwhile.
It'd be difficult to, last meeting and this meeting, I've been jotting down a lot of goals based upon
Yeah,
the test results and things like that, whether they're applicable or not, we'll see, so.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Get Colleen out of the heat here. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Thank you, Jeff. Second.
Martha.
I like it, thank you. Everybody say yes?
Said Robert.
It does, it gets really hot. Yeah. 6 yes.
Yes.
6-1
Yes,
against.
yes.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Nice
One
job,
hour.
Rick.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Thank you.
You want to